Hi everyone, it's your favorite creative mentor, senior designer, and art director Falcon. Welcome to the Photoshop Foundation series, where we learn all the basics piece by piece before moving to more expert level knowledge. Today we are going to talk about a wonderful artboard tool, and it is pretty cool when you find yourself working with, for example, banner sets in a marketing capacity, or you need to do artwork that needs to be set up to different sizes, because you can do it all in the same document other than having to open multiple Photoshop files for each spec. So first off, where do we find the artboard tool? Well, if you go to your toolbar right there at the top where the move tool is, it is a sandwich menu. So if you long click on the move tool, you will see that there is a option that pops up called artboard tool. You will also see that it does have the same shortcut as the move tool, V, and the way to access that is, it's not really complicated. Basically the last tool that you used within that sandwich menu is going to default to the shortcut. So if we, for example, go to the brush tool and then go back to V to select the move tool, we would automatically get the artboard tool because it's the last tool that we used within that sandwich menu. If you want to change that back to move tool, simply go back to the toolbar, long click, select the move tool, and now V will be bound back to the move tool. But for today, we are talking artboards and we are going to use the artboard tool. I'm just going to hide my little bar there so it's not in the way. So we don't have any images in the Photoshop file today because we don't need to showcase images. We are specifically talking about artboards. I've just set up a blank canvas here to the spec of 1200 by 628 pixels. It's a general Facebook post size, a very general size, but just as an example. So right now you can see that we don't really have artboards in this document. It's just this one artboard. So if you want to add another artboard to this document, all you have to do is go to your layers panel, navigate to the sandwich menu at the top there, click on that, scroll down until you see new artboard. When you select new artboard, it's going to pop up with this little box. There you can see the current spec of the artboard that I've got in the document is 1200 by 628 and its name is artboard 1. So if I, for example, go in there and I say Facebook post, just as an example, hit OK, then you'll see something's changed a bit. So usually you get the control handles around an image or a layer when you work in a Photoshop file. When you work with artboards in that Photoshop file, each artboard essentially gets the same control handles that a layer would. So you can see we've got the little nodes on the corners and on the sides that you can use for resizing an artboard. I wouldn't really recommend just free resizing it because usually you want to work to a specific spec. This one, for example, is 1200 by 628. So if you do want to make this one square, let's say we want to do a square Facebook post instead of a landscape one, you will go to the top of your UI and you will see the spec is there. 1200 width, height is 628. So let's go and select the height and we're going to change that to 1200 as well. Hit enter and it's going to resize your artboard to 1200 by 1200. Easy peasy. Now if you are going to do a carousel, for example, and you know you're going to need multiple square artboards for each slide within your carousel, all you have to do is click on the little plus symbol on whichever side you want to add the new artboard. I'm going to add mine to the right because that's kind of how I navigate a carousel from left to right. If you click it once, there's a new artboard. Now you'll see the name for this one has reverted back to the base, Artboard 1. It's calling it Artboard 1 because this one's name is no longer Artboard 1, even though this is the second artboard. So to change the name of this artboard, go to your layers panel and you see Artboard 1 there. Simply double click it and we will call this Carousel Slide 2. Now that we're doing a carousel slide instead of a Facebook post, let's double click on the Facebook post artboard and rename that Carousel Slide 1. And you will see the name is always displayed at the top of your artboard. Now, if you want to add a new artboard that is not 1200 by 1200, all you have to do is go back to your sandwich menu, click on it, go back down to new artboard, click on it, And then let's call this one, for example, a Facebook cover image. And then we make this, let's say, just as an example, this is not the true aspect ratio for a Facebook cover image. If you want that, it's very easy to find. If you go on Google and you type in a Facebook cover image spec, it will give you the exact sizes and safe zones. I will cover that in a later tutorial as well, but not right now. So just as an example, we're going to go 1920 by, let's say, 500. This is more web banner size, but just for interest's sake, let's call it a Facebook cover since we're on the theme of social media. When you hit OK, it's going to add your new artboard. Now you see it's kind of weird. It's clipping into one of your other artboards. Now you don't want that because you want to work on each individual artboard independently. It will also confuse the layers a bit when you move subjects around or objects around on either one of these artboards. So all you have to do is don't necessarily click in the middle of the artboard, but when you go to the edge, you'll see the arrow turns black. When it turns black, you can click and move the artboard. So move it to a place where it's not overlapping with something else. We're going to put it over there. Now you've got a Facebook cover image artboard and you've got 2 carousel slides. You can use this method to add as many artboards to your file as you want. You will see that each has a little drop down on the side of it. The first one will have a drop down with the object in there already. You see it's kind of a weird size in relation to the artboard that it's on. That's because the original artboard we created was half the height. So just drag that down to fill in the whole thing. You will see it does snap to the bottom, so it does make it a bit easier, but we don't need this layer because we aren't going to work with anything. So if I'm just, for example, going to quickly navigate to my downloads folder so that I can find an image. I usually download images, sample images, especially from Unsplash. Very cool website if you're looking for a place to find nice free stock imagery that you can use wherever you want. Just gonna find one quick. There we go. Now, when you have your image and you drag it into Photoshop, you're gonna get that little hoverbox thing going on. If you drop it on the artboard, it's gonna size it to that exact artboard. Just going to pause here quick to tell you that the rain is coming down quite hard outside, so if there is a bit of weird background noise going on, it's just the rain hitting the roof. But I do want to get this lesson out for you guys as soon as possible. So back to the lesson here, we've got the artboard. We just pulled in an image from our downloads folder and it dropped directly onto this artboard. It was primarily because I had this artboard selected. Photoshop kind of sees that as where you want to drop the image. But when you don't have an artboard selected and you bring an image in and you just drop it in Photoshop, it's going to drop it nowhere. It's going to drop it in the empty space, essentially, in front of or behind of the artboards. When you hit the commit tick at the top, it's going to revert to whichever banner or artboard it basically chooses, usually the top one in your layers panel. Now, that can be a bit inconvenient because now you've got to go in and resize your image to wherever you want it to be, make it live on that exact artboard, and then hit commit, it will stay on that artboard. But it is generally, if you are working with a specific artboard and you do want your image that you are bringing in to live on that artboard, simply select the artboard before you go to your folder where you are housing the images. Then bring it into Photoshop and drop it. And then it will drop it center on that artboard and you can work from there. That makes it a lot easier. So this is that's the basics of artboards, with a focus on working in a document that was set up to not have artboards. You now know how to create an artboard in a Photoshop file that was not established or set up as artboards. And yeah. You know how to add new ones, how to resize them, how to move them around. You know how to resize them. And you will see, like, we are back on the move tool now, just as a quick another tip. Because we selected an object, it will almost always revert you back to the move tool because that's what you do, what you primarily use with an image or layer. So if you want to go back to the artboard tool without going to your sandwich menu, you will again, when you scroll to the edge of an artboard, the move icon next to the arrow disappears and it changes to a full mouse pointer. When it does that and you click, it's going to select the actual artboard. You're basically looking to hit the rim of the artboard. Then it knows that is what you're trying to select. And then you can go ahead and resize your artboard again. But once again, like I said earlier, it's better to resize your artboard using the exact measurements that you want it to be in the top bar over there. Now, if you are wanting to create a new Photoshop file with artboards, simply go to File, New, and you're going to get the general prompt box, dialog box that allows you to set up a new Photoshop file. Let's do this to 1200 by 1200 again. And you'll see next to the orientation icons, there's a little tick box with artboards written above it. When you tick that on, it's going to take this spec and create an artboard in the Photoshop file to that dimension. So when we click create, you will see that it's already created with an artboard. Click on the edge with the pointer being a full black pointer, not the move pointer, and you'll see that we've got the artboard set up. From there, you can do the exact same thing. Hit the plus to add more artboards, navigate to the layers panel at the top where the sandwich menu is, click on that, go down a bit, select new artboard, put in the new spec that you want your new artboard to be, and then simply hit enter or OK. And again, make sure that you hit the cursor, the artboard right on the edge so that you can grab it and move it around. And that, my friends, is artboards. If you enjoyed this lesson, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We are running through every single tool in Photoshop so that you know what to do with whatever you want to do in Photoshop. It's a very big piece of software, and like I always say, just play around. With every little bit, new bit that you learn, you can do something new, but you can always mess around in Photoshop even if you don't know what the thing does. Click on it, use it, see what happens when you use it. If you don't know what it does, come back to me and I will show you. Have a lovely day further, fellow designers, and stay creative.